Hey everyone, this is Tom Salemi of DeviceTalks. Welcome back to the DeviceTalks weekly podcast. We've got a great episode for you today. We're going to hear from many voices. We'll start, of course, with Chris Newmarker and myself, where we're going to hear from old pal Paul Grand. He's got some news for medtech startup executives and entrepreneurs who are interested in the medtech innovator program. Make sure you listen for that. Sean Hooley, associate editor, spoke with Kevin Sayer, the CEO of Dexcom. And a little later in the episode, I'll run an interview I did with Skip Keel. He's the president of Cranial and Spinal Technologies at Medtronic. This is from our Medtronic Talks podcast, the one that came out recently. But it was such a good interview, I wanted to share it with you as well. Before we begin, I want to mention, and we'll talk about it a bit during the episode, we will not have a Device Talks weekly podcast next Friday. However, we've got a great episode, one of our other podcasts coming out on Friday. So look forward to that. So let us get this episode of the Device Talks weekly podcast started. All right, you ready for this?
Ready.
Chris Newmarker, how are you, sir?
Good. Good to be here, Tom. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. You and I are having quite the hectic week. We're getting ready for our company meeting next week. We'll be flying to sunny Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah, good old Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah.
Good view of Lake Erie.
Yeah, in January. Going to be fantastic. So actually, we are looking forward to seeing our colleagues. We have not seen them since January 2020 for obvious reasons. So
totally.
It'll be exciting.
I'm looking forward to it. I mean, my gosh, and yeah, it's gonna be good to see everybody in person. And it's about time we did this. And I suspect a lot of people in a lot of different companies are kind of in like going through it's kind of like a similar adventure right now. Like it's like we're all getting to know each other again, and getting back to work. We gotta get some things built.
Absolutely.
Make America better. Make the world better.
I think we have a little shindig planned at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, if I'm not correct. So
awesome, that's great.
So that'll be fun. Yeah, that'll be good. So we bring this up just because we're chatting, but also because we'll be so busy with that, we're not going to be doing a podcast next week, a Device Talks Weekly podcast. But I'll be sending out a super awesome Striker Talks podcast that'll more than make up for Chris Newmarker and I being busy seeing our friends and colleagues. So
I don't know if it'll more than make up, but I mean it'll be a nice, it'll still be a good meal. It'll you'll still feel fed with information, I think.
Yes, it'll be very, very satisfying. That I promise.
It won't be the usual bordelaise sauce, that it's not. I mean, not the level they get with us, but it'll be good. We good.
No, I don't think we're more of a condiment podcast than an actual sauce. I think we're ketchup. We're fancy ketchup.
We're ketchup. Heinz,
we're fancy,
man.
like the little
Heinz.
bottles.
It's the good stuff.
The little bottles you get at those fancy hotels.
Oh yeah, those little bottles. I'm like, ooh, wow.
I feel like a giant. Look at the giant. Look at my hand. It's so huge.
I'm important.
All right. We are busy, so let's roll into the Newmarker's Newsmakers, Chris Newmarker. What is number 5 on this vaunted, celebrated list?
Well, number 5 on the list, this is actually from the previous week, but I mean, it's still getting a lot of attention on our sites, and it's just like one of these can't miss articles, I think. It's our associate editor, Sean Hooley, caught up with Dexcom CEO Kevin Sayer, and he kind of laid out for him how, they're moving. They have this whole strategy of how they're going to become more than just a diabetes, treatment company, just, more than just treating, people who are wrestling with the chronic condition of diabetes, but, what they've, learned from each generation of their continuous glucose monitors is going to help them, help treat a variety of more conditions, expand into more areas. And just initially he was just talking about how the CGMs could really help out with expecting moms, like
Hmm.
being able to track their blood sugar, during pregnancy, and
Well, you know what, Chris Newmarker? It was a great interview. So
yeah,
you know what we're going to do? We're going to run that interview right here in
you
this
got it.
podcast. So
You got it in the
we'll run
can.
the we're run we got I got it in the can. We'll run our associate editor Sean Hooley's interview with Kevin Sayer, the CEO of Dexcom. He did a great
Yeah,
job.
fantastic. They don't need to hear me. Awesome, man. They don't need to hear me talking about. Like, let's listen to what Sayer actually said.
Roll the tape.
Woo!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time for our Device Talks fastball pitch. This week it's delivered by Paul Grand, our friend, the CEO of MedTech Innovator.
Hey, Tom, it's Paul Grand, CEO here at MedTech Innovator. Thanks for having me back. Want to let all your listeners know that the deadline is coming up January 31st to apply to MedTech Innovator. For those of you who don't know MedTech Innovator, we are an accelerator for medical technology. We have more companies who are raising capital than any other accelerator in the world. Roughly $1 out of $4 every year now is going to a graduate of MedTech Innovator in terms of financing. As many MedTech Innovator graduates will tell you, they applied multiple times before being accepted. It's always the right time for the right company. MedTech Innovator is in many ways like a corporate accelerator. It gives you access to strategics. It gives you visibility to the leadership of the industry and many different events, including DeviceTalks, as well as conferences like the annual AdvaMed meeting, where all of our companies will be up in front of the leadership of the industry, investors, and others. For those who wonder, is it too early for me or is it too late for me to apply to MedTech Innovator? We are definitely like the graduate school of accelerators. We are looking for companies who are actually up and running, who have prototypes, who have some early evidence that what they're doing is going to work. You could be anywhere from a Series Seed all the way up to a Series C stage in financing. There'll be valuable information and visibility and access for you at any of those stages. Make sure you apply before our deadline, which is January 31st. Anyone who you talk to who are one of our graduates will tell you, don't even think about it, just apply. You're going to get in front of investors, strategics. You have the opportunity to pitch on the MedTech Innovator Road Tour if you're advanced to that in March through April. And your company might even be invited to Device Talks.
That's right. I'm super excited to be working with Paul Grand and the MedTech Innovator on Device Talks Boston, which is happening on May 10th and 11th. We will have companies from the MedTech Innovator program presenting their stories. If you want to be one of those companies, you need to apply before January 31st. Go to medtechinnovator.org/apply. Now we're going to bring in a conversation that Sean Hooley, associate editor, had with Kevin Sayer, the CEO of Dexcom. Sean caught up with Kevin Sayer at JP Morgan, or Kevin Sayer was at JP Morgan. Sean was at his home office, but they talked about the approval of the G7 and where Dexcom is headed in the future. Let's listen.
How big has this last month or so been for the company after its latest
You
regulatory
know, it's really been a wonderful time. It's something we've worked towards for a long time. And when you achieve that goal to get this product approved and now get it launched, it really brings everything we do together. And everybody's very focused on what's going on here. We're rapidly building inventory for the U.S. launch that will happen in the first quarter. And, as I talked about it yesterday, that's not going to be a bashful launch. We're going to be aggressive about it. And we've got a lot of capacity to build that product. We're very confident that we can go meet everybody's needs. We talked about yesterday with respect to the G7 launch, we're going to have what's called a bridging program. It takes a while to get reimbursement. And our product is reimbursed pretty much for everybody around the country. In fact, our G6 product is the most reimbursed and most covered continuous glucose monitor that there is, and we expect G7 to be the same. So you have to go through processes where the insurance contracts transfer from one product to the other, or just include the second product in it. For example, it'll take probably till late March, early April for Medicare approval to pay for the G7. And then our pharmacy contracts will come in after that. So in the meantime, we will have what's called a bridging program where people can go to the drugstore and pay cash and buy it. We won't run that forever. But we think it's important that people have access to G7 who want to go try it because it's just such a different experience than what we've had before on the product front. So we're going to roll that out here in the first quarter, and then over the course of the year, G7 will become more and more part of our business as people switch over. Now, the other thing we have going on that is a great opportunity for 23, recently CMS changed their coverage decision. It isn't people who use intensive insulin only, but anybody on insulin, including those on with one shot a day, will now have access to CGM and it'll be reimbursed through Medicare, which literally you can hear the sirens in San Francisco. Sorry about that. But literally it doubles the addressable population of people for us to get our product to. So there is a lot of good things that'll be going on in 2023 with respect to this product launch, our expanding market, and combine that with international growth. We launched a Dexcom One product in Europe last year in several countries. There's an interesting dynamic that goes on over there. The reimbursement of CGM is kind of in two categories: those with integrated systems and are considered what these reimbursement authorities, mainly governments, consider high-risk patients. And our Dexcom G6 and G7 product will play there nicely. And the reimbursement there is quite good. But for the remaining people in the population, for example, type 2 patients on insulin, they don't pay for that product. They pay a lower amount. And our Dexcom One, because it's defeatured a bit, we've been able to get some big wins on the reimbursement side and increased access in those countries. So our G6 platform will live on in the Dexcom One product line for quite some time. So again, a lot of opportunities for 2023 and good stuff going on.
Awesome. Yeah. Excuse me. Sorry. You touched on that CMS final rule, and it was something Jake had mentioned too. And so you expect that you expect it to kick in this year and really, it seems
we
like
expect it to kick in about mid-year. And what we said in our prepared remarks yesterday is about 1% of our revenues for the year would come from that. But that's our preliminary estimate. And assuming it kicks in mid-year, if it kicks in earlier, if things go better, that could be an upside event for us. But for now, we put our best foot forward. We estimate as best we can at the start of a year. And as you know, all the pieces move around, but usually our estimates are pretty close.
And as a concept, though, just that decision would obviously open up, not just a lot of opportunities for you as a company, but for the diabetes community as a whole, right?
It'll help everybody. I really believe, with respect to these basal patients in particular, again, they come from a type 2 world. They see primary care doctors, usually most of them have an endocrinologist. This will be the first time in their lives they're getting incredible feedback about what diabetes does to their lives and how well that basal insulin shot works. If it does work, and it'll be the same thing with their physicians. Here's basal insulin, and as long as your A1C doesn't go up too high, everybody assumes you're fine. But when we put these people on a CGM, what we'll see is they'll engage more with their health. The mobile study that was published about 18 months ago was really the primary evidence. There was a lot of evidence put together, but the primary evidence, I think, that drove this reimbursement approval was evidence provided by Dexcom. And this study showed that the basal patients who stayed engaged with CGM got by far and away the best outcomes. And they didn't want to go off the product they wanted to stay on. So we are excited about that opportunity. We think it'll be sticky with these individuals, that they'll use it, they'll have better health outcomes. And if they learn enough from it, then they can delay all the other things, that happen. Because there's this path of disease for people with type 2 diabetes. They start with one compound, then two, and then three, then basal insulin, then intensive insulin therapy. The only way you can slow that progression down or revise that path is through information and making different decisions. And getting to a population that isn't as far down the line, I think will show great utility in CGM, not just as a safety device, but as a cost prevention tool and a progression of disease prevention tool as well. We're very excited about this opportunity.
Great. And so, ahead of, a full year ahead, and you've obviously cleared the biggest recent hurdle, and you're preparing for the launch. I know you've mentioned, or the company has mentioned, integration with insulin delivery systems. Dexcom One you mentioned earlier. So what overall, is there anything else we can expect from Dexcom this year? You mentioned an aggressive launch. Is there any other aggression going on?
I encourage as much aggression as we can come up with. I think the feedback on G7 will be nothing short of remarkable. I think it'll be very, very good. One of the things you heard from us financially at the conference yesterday, we are going through a lot of transitions. There's a lot of operational execution that has to happen here. We have manufacturing lines for G7 that, while up and running for the launch that we've had in Europe and while building the initial inventories of G7 in the US, they've never been fully turned on. And that's always a fun process at a company. We have a manufacturing plant in Malaysia that will come online third quarter, more than likely, and start producing a commercial product that will sell. We've never manufactured there before. We've got new supply chain and all sorts of things like that going on, which is very exciting. But again, it gives us the ability to expand and go bigger and go faster. And we're very excited about that opportunity. I think as you look at 23, one of the other things we really have to do is position the company long-term to go after these other opportunities. One of our themes in my presentation yesterday is we've revised our mission statement. In the past, we have always talked about enabling people to take control of diabetes, and we've changed diabetes to health, enabling people to take control of health, because metabolic health and glucose values and the information we can provide are very much synonymous. Weight loss programs literally all over are clamoring for CGM data to be used in their apps to give their customers feedback as to what's going on with their health and in their lives. And it's a very good marker and very good indicator for that. We hear, numerous stories about the new type 2 diabetes wonder drugs, and they're great drugs. They're great compounds. But ultimately, before we spend that much money on these drugs, a feedback loop as to how they're working is a really good idea. And a feedback loop to patients as to how their behavioral changes related to the compounds that they're taking is also a great market for us. We'll make progress on those fronts as we move more towards health. We expect to make progress on the pregnancy side with G7. There's no longer a contraindication for pregnancy use like there was with G6. And so while people with diabetes use our product always stayed on it during pregnancy anyway, there are actually standards published by the Endocrine Society and American Diabetes Association with respect to use during pregnancy and what a person's time in range should be and the highs they should avoid. So I think the pregnancy opportunity will be good for us as well. And then hopefully we can move to gestational diabetes. There's over 4 million gestational diabetes cases a year in the United States alone. And I have grandbabies that came from a gestational diabetes case. My 8-year-old twin grandchildren, their mom had gestational diabetes back when we only had G4, and I put their mom on a CGM, and it really, really helped with the management of the condition. In fact, her OBGYN, this is many years ago, but I mean, they're 8, so it's at least 9 years ago, said to her, I don't know why everybody doesn't have this. This is awesome. So I think there's a number of opportunities just on the overall health side that touch diabetes, but we'll move a little further out with this technology going forward, and it'll be a good year of laying the foundation for the future as well.
Awesome. Yeah, that kind of leads into one of my next thoughts, which was you obviously, you're very proud of the G7 and you're expecting great feedback. And, as you keep advancing with your technology, how do you continue to innovate? Because you have to go beyond that.
We have to keep changing. And it's a really good question. I wouldn't expect anything different from you. We were pretty clear yesterday, our next innovation, we have to extend the life of the sensor. We have to make it last 15 days. We think a longer experience provides a better experience for customers. And it also provides a better model for us as far as expanding and getting to more people and having more capacity. So that is a very acute scientific need and something that we'll work on. I think as we look to the future, you can look at what our product consists of now with respect, to the sensor probe and the accuracy performance of the sensor. We'll always look at ways to make it more accurate and ways to address things that can make that experience better for people. The G7 is the most accurate system that's ever been launched with respect to its performance in extensive clinical studies. And so we know we're moving up. We won't ever go backwards with respect to sensor performance. We always want to go forward. as we look at the rest of the on-body experience, certainly there are things that we can do on the electronic side to think differently, different radios, different signals. As we've gone through all of the electronics issues related to 22 and supply chain and things like that, as we prepared for G7, we've realized that there are things we can look at going forward that can cut cost out and make things better. Smaller plastic footprint. We'll look at that. I think the other innovation you'll see from us that will start in 23. The G7 app is different than our previous apps, but we're making big investments on the software side. Medical device companies typically aren't software companies. We make good enough software to run a medical device. We don't make the same software experience that you have, for example, for an airline. When was the last time you communicated with an airline other than through your phone or worst case, online on the phone, on your computer? We will integrate more things on the software side and make that experience better for people. And we've really brought some high-powered software engineers from the tech world onto our staff to help us think differently about how we iterate and the experiences that we create. One of the better experiences for our customers, we do very well on the reliability front, and people very much like our technical support. But in all honesty, as we break these things down and look at it, we ask ourselves the question, how much of this can we do in the software? And if we could do it in the software and make some of these experiences better, again, that just positions us better for the long term. So these are the things we're looking at. And then the last piece I talked to you about is starting to pull all this data from health together. Activity data, sleep data, whatever data makes the most sense to put together, we want to do. We've created a connectivity platform to our APIs whereby we can get data to anybody else who wants it. If they want to use it, we can get it to them in a retrospective format where it's delayed, or we can get it to them live where a patient's running a Dexcom app, and then that data goes to our cloud and they can come right down and feed their app directly, if that's what they want to do. And I think you'll see these relationships grow for us. And I think we'll very much work on changing the regulatory environment to whereby this becomes more of a health matter rather than just a continuous glucose monitor for diabetes. So those are the things that'll be coming next year. You'll see good progress on all those fronts.
Awesome. And I don't know, how much you feel comfortable commenting on the diabetes market as a whole, obviously, especially as you move into health, broader sort of spectrum. But
no, I actually talked about that a great deal yesterday. Yeah. Even in our reimbursed space now, in the U.S. market, only half of people on intensive insulin therapy have access to CGM today. And that has been defined as the standard of care by pretty much every professional society. So we have growth opportunity there. Now we have the basal users added on top of that. CGM, literally, when that basal decision comes down, will be more underpenetrated than it's ever been in the United States, or at least for the past 5 years. So we have a great growth opportunity on the diabetes market there. But then as we look at the other conditions related to diabetes with, 20, 30 million people in the US having type 2 diabetes, and you expand those markets overseas, there's a lot of people that we can reach and that we can help. We just have to be very thoughtful as to how we go after them, and go after them in a way that makes sense for our shareholders and sense for us. We can't take on opportunities that we can't execute. But we're spending a lot of time on those things.
And just out of curiosity, with over the past in 2022 alone, a number of not just CGMs and then insulin delivery systems, sort of the next generations all came through and got their regulatory nods. So I was wondering if you have any insight on what we can sort of expect from the diabetes market as a whole this year, without obviously asking you to predict the future, which isn't possible.
I think on the device side in diabetes, our G7 approval sets us up for obviously a launch, and that'll be our primary activity. From Dexcom, you'll see us continue to improve that G7 over the course of 2023 with little things we've already identified. Our G7 will get integrated with our pump partners either during 23 or early 2024. So those patients will be able to switch from the G6 to the G7 platforms. And we think that will make a big difference for those customers because, again, the G7 experience is so much stronger for our customers than the G6 experience is. I'm trying to think if I don't see a lot of other, we'll continue to innovate. We'll continue to hear noise about startup companies trying to do this. We look at them all. If something is remarkable, certainly we would look deeper and harder at it. What I see now versus years before is this industry's become so big, it's much more about scale than it is just about technology. We serve so many customers now that you can't do it on the same platforms we did when we were only building, 1 million sensors a year versus millions of sensors a month. It's changed dramatically. And I think our scale for our company will put us in a much better position. But the Insulet rollout is early. Tandem is still relatively early in their Omnipod. I mean, not their Omnipod, in their Control IQ launch. It's still got plenty of legs. They have a new pump that'll be coming. I don't know if it's 23 or when they're scheduled for it. They'll have to speak to that, but it will be integrated with the Dexcom as well. So all these things help us, and we'll give customers more choice.
Awesome. Well, that's all I have prepared. If there's anything else you wanted to touch on, feel free. Otherwise, I really appreciate you taking the time.
No, I think, we didn't talk about our 22 results much at all. We did pre-announce our revenues yesterday at $2.91 billion, 19% organic growth with strong growth everywhere. I think, it's just going to be a year of growth and some transitions for us in 23. And we're really looking forward to the opportunity and the challenges. They're good.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thanks, you guys. Have a great day.
All right. And we're back. Yes, no, Sean did a great job with that. And I was,
totally.
We've been talking in this podcast a few times about what else could be done with the G7 and those types of devices. We had Brian Bunce on here talking about how it changed his life and how he jogs now and didn't jog before, how he saw the impact that I believe it was a cinnamon bun or something could have on his blood sugar levels. So, exciting stuff for Dexcom. I kind of got chills listening a little bit, listening to it.
Well, and just even thinking just think of how tough it is to be, if you have like a high risk pregnancy, to be like, already stuck in the hospital, and then you get gestational diabetes, and so they're coming in and doing finger prick tests all the time. Like on top of that, I mean, you could just like get rid of some of that. That would just be fantastic. I would think.
Second child didn't bring on the diabetes, but my wife really had to be measured with every bite she took to maintain a minimum level of miserableness during that.
I mean, if you just stick on a CGM and and just get the measurements and know, real time what's going on, that would be just.
I can't wait to see what Dexcom is into 4 or 5 years from now. I mean, hopefully we'll watch it unfold piece by piece, but
that's right. We got a front row seat.
Years from now, we're going to be looking back and say, geez, remember when they just did diabetes?
Right? Kind of like what was there, like some online book company called Amazon? Like I guess
I've heard of that.
Yeah, they went places, if you think.
They did. Yeah. They go everywhere. They went everywhere.
Exactly.
What is number 4 on the Newmakers list, Chris?
Well, number 4 on the list, I threw you a curveball here. I just threw this in because it's getting so much. It just, we're talking on Thursday, and this posted on MassDevice just a few hours ago, but it's getting like hundreds of people looking at it. It's Medtronic announced today that they've joined the Global Health Equity Network to drive change in health equity. This is like this Gen World Economic Forum. It's bringing together like private and public sectors to address health equity issues. And, they said the company said in a quote that, they basically said that half the world's population lacks access to essential care. So it's great to see, that, the world's largest medical device company is, kind of making a statement here that, they think they have like an important role here to play, and, kind of like leveling the playing field for people around the world.
That's great. No, and that has been a constant theme, or a regular theme, maybe not constant, in some of our Medtronic Talks episodes, including one we ran just last year, where I interviewed Karen Shahady and Dr. John DeChapel, about what Medtronic steps in improving health equity are. So folks should check that out. You can go to DeviceTalks.com and find Medtronic. It ran on May 25th, and I'll include a link in the show notes. But oh, good. I'm glad that article is getting attention.
And it kind of goes along. It's like almost like an extension of that overall like Medtronic mission. I mean, it's drilled into everybody who's at Medtronic, but I mean, I've always thought that's a really neat part of their story that in their early years that their founder Earl Bakken was like, what people were they were selling to the doctors, and he's like, you know what? I know we sell to the doctors, but we're going to have a mission statement that says that like our mission is to contribute to human welfare, to like enhance and save people's lives, and like then that they kind of drum that home in people, and health equity like is a good, like looks like a really good extension of that.
Absolutely. We've highlighted other companies, Stryker and Boston Scientific have programs as well, but
absolutely.
It's nice. Every article that draws more attention to the need for health equity is a good one. So
exactly.
Right, number 4. What's number 3, Chris Newmarker?
Hey, well, number 3 on the list, though we have Philips and Masimo are expanding a partnership they have around patient monitoring. This involves like boosting patient monitoring capabilities at home using the Masimo W1 smartwatch, so like really cool. That just seems like another way that Masimo is kind of like going to boost what they're trying to do with all this like, digital health at home that they're trying to do with their devices. They got like this huge giant medical device company working with them on it too.
That's great. And we had the conversation last week. I think it was last week. Was it 2 weeks ago? But Apple's patent infringement issues with Masimo. So
making some headway with the ITC, they might start getting some Apple money.
They're starting to throw some elbows. I don't know. There's another company that'll be interesting to see what they look like in 5 years from now, and just how different they may be. Clearly, fitness trackers and watches are a critical part of our healthcare monitoring system now. Ooh, I just got my stand. My Apple Watch just rewarded me for standing 12 times over the last 12 hours. So
wow, yay!
Yeah, pretty proud of that.
Wow, that's great. Like I don't even know. I don't even know. Want to know what my Fitbit's telling me right now. It's like, it's telling me I need to get up. I need to get up, Tom. I need to get walking.
And it's only 4:37, and I've already achieved it. I did have to get up in the middle of the night anyway.
Oh, brutal. I mean, being in Minnesota, I've got a few more inches of snow in the driveway, so that's going to be my workout like very soon right now.
Make sure. And with your Apple Watch, I always have to use open other workout because they don't have a snow shoveling workout activity. And just letting it measure it on its own, I always got robbed. I'd be out there for like an hour and be like 5 minutes of activity. These people in Cupertino have no idea how much hard work it is in shoveling snow.
Yeah, they just don't. Yeah, right. California. It's like, come on.
What do they know? Yeah, please. Do you think I don't need snowboarding? I need snow shoveling. That's where the work is. So
exactly.
Right. we
the snow shovel workout plan.
Exactly. Go for it. Bend with your knees. Bend with your knees. Yeah,
that's right.
You could have different settings for like heavy snow or fluffy snow.
That's right. It feels very light and fluffy today. So yeah, it might not be as hard of a workout, but we'll see.
Poor people are getting hammered out there. All right, what is number 2 on the Newmarker's Newsmakers?
Number 2 on the list, we've got news from Abbott. They won FDA approval for their latest generation TAVI system, the Navitor transcatheter aortic valve implant. And like Abbott entered the TAVR and TAVI market in 2021 with FDA approval of the Portico, but this kind of like a boost what they're offering to the next level, and they're really trying to compete against Edwards and Medtronic here in the U.S. Where those two companies have dominated a lot. So it's neat to see more competition.
Absolutely. No, great news from Abbott. And
the Navitor features the Naviseal unique fabric cuff. So like kind of like that's one of the things that they're saying is an advantage of this, that it reduces or eliminates the backflow of blood around the valve frame. So they definitely are kind of like saying that they think they've made some innovations here with the technology that could allow them to take some of the market. So we'll see what happens with this. But yeah, I mean generally it seems like more competition can create more innovation. So and this has already been like a really exciting technology. I mean, not having your chest cracked open to get a heart valve repaired sounds like a great idea. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
All right, great number 2, and let us roll into the number 1 Newmarker's Newsmakers of the week.
Number 1 on the list, we've got Shockwave Medical. They're going to acquire Neovasc for up to $147 million, and this comes just about a year after Neovasc enrolled their first patient in a clinical trial of their Neovasc reducer. And the company designed the device to reduce angina symptoms in people with refractory angina, and they're also, we had a story a few years ago that they were reportedly developing a mitral valve repair device, which that's been a really hot space. Like talking about, you have TAVR, but mitral valve repair or even replacement has been one of the really next big things. And I know Abbott's really big with mitral valve repair already, but yeah. So it's like Shockwave just kind of spanning what they're doing.
That's certainly interesting news from Shockwave Medical. They started, of course, in the peripheral space. Now they have products in the coronary space. They have transformal access space. So they're really building up their portfolio of devices.
Yeah, so. and Neovasc's CEO said in the news release that they really like Shockwave's track record of scaling novel technologies. So they said they're excited to be becoming part of Shockwave. So that it sounds like they think Shockwave can take what they're doing to the next level.
All right, well, that concludes this week's Newmarker's Newsmakers. Now let's hear from Skip Keel. He's the president of Cranial and Spinal Technologies at Medtronic. We'll just pick up our Medtronic Talks episode right from the start. If you'd like to subscribe to Medtronic Talks or find the back episodes of Medtronic Talks, you can go to DeviceTalks.com or subscribe on any major podcast player. Hey everybody, this is Tom Salemi of DeviceTalks. Welcome back to the Medtronic Talks podcast, our first episode of 2023. We have a great guest for you. I had a chance to speak with Skip Keel. Skip is the still relatively new president of Medtronic's Cranial and Spinal Technologies business. He is a medtech veteran. He's worked at several medical device companies in a few different areas, but with a real focus on orthopedics and spine. And he's also had an interesting career path. His first job was not in medtech, and I think you'll enjoy hearing what he was up to. And I also thought he offered some great advice for young medical device executives. So definitely give a listen to that. But overall, we're going to talk about the opportunities that Medtronic sees in the spinal and cranial space. We'll talk about Mazor and other systems that Medtronic is bringing into the spine space. And Skip's a great guy to talk to, and I know you'll enjoy this conversation. But before we begin this episode, I'd like to bring in our sponsor, Allied Motion Technologies. I'm speaking with Chairman and CEO Dick Warzala. Dick, welcome to the program. Tell us about Allied Motion Technologies.
Sure, Tom. Thank you. Allied Motion is a public company that has grown quite rapidly over the years, both organically and through acquisitions. We consider ourselves a technology/know-how company, and our individual business units or operating units, as some may call them, we actually call them technology units. That provides ownership and leadership for a particular product and or technology on a global basis. Some exciting acquisitions occurred over the last 12 months. We had 6 new acquisitions, and several of those were focused on bringing leading edge technology that can support and enhance the product line that we currently have, as well as creating and adding more value for our customers. So we see Allied continuing to grow. We see Allied looking at how we can bring together the right mix of technology and products and solutions to create and add more value for our customers.
Well, that's a great start. We'll hear more from Dick Warzala a little later in the podcast. If you'd like to find out more about Allied Motion Technologies right now, go to its website, alliedmotion.com. Well, Skip Keel, welcome to the podcast.
Tom, great to be here with you today.
Great to have you. You were actually a guest on another one of my podcasts a couple of years ago, and I promise I won't gush as much as I did. I just listened to the podcast about your being a double-A baseball player back in the day, though I still think it's tremendously cool. But this is a new audience and a new opportunity. Tell us a bit about your pre-MedTech career, and then we'll get into your MedTech career.
Yeah, Tom, thanks so much. Number one, I was a professional baseball player. I had a unique experience having a career before I have a real career. I was able to play professional baseball for 7 years and played in the Phillies, Yankees, and Cincinnati Reds organization. You know, they had enough of me after 7 years and said, "Hey, kid, you can't hit a curveball or slider. You got to go figure out something else to do in life." So I decided to reinvent myself, and it was one of those experiences you learn a lot from, and I still draw on a daily basis in regards to kind of business prep and plan and all that kind of fun stuff.
So we understand why that career came to a conclusion. How did you find your way into MedTech?
Tom, really, really interestingly, I had always had an interest in healthcare. My mom was a nurse for 36 years and worked in healthcare administration. And so I'd always been around hospitals and doctors. And quite honestly, I was a pre-med undergrad in school at Cal State Fullerton. But, when your classes conflicted with baseball practice and hockey, you decided it was time to be a practice. And so kind of put that on the back burner, but reinvigorated that as I left baseball. I found myself in the training room a lot, few injuries here and there. So I still had that mentality, that mindset around sports medicine, orthopedics, feeling like there was an opportunity to make a broader impact in overall healthcare. And I just had this kind of burning desire to really get involved and do something different. And so that's really when my first job out of college and professional baseball was working at Stryker, and got in on the sales level and kind of worked my way up through the company and had a nice 12-year career there.
Well, that's an interesting start at Stryker. And speaking of minor league baseball, I see them sponsoring a lot of the games, which is kind of an interesting demographic. I don't know if they're advertising to the fans or to the players on the field, but you went from orthopedics to Alcon, and in both those jobs, Stryker to Alcon, in both those jobs, you worked for a lot of international companies, correct? Were you working OUS? Were you just working with those divisions? What did that part of your career look like?
Yeah, Tom, that was a really interesting experience. I had an opportunity when I was with Stryker to move out to New Jersey or take an overseas assignment, and made the decision to move my family overseas. So I spent 3 years in Tokyo, Japan, running Stryker Japan. And subsequently, we decided that we enjoyed the experience so much, and we moved to Europe. So I lived in Rome, Italy, Geneva, Switzerland, and London. And so we were in market and had the family there. And really, it was a great opportunity for me to, get a good understanding of global healthcare and the policies and the implementation of, how those policies are executed. Universal healthcare is very different than what we operate here in the United States on a for-profit basis. And so, understanding how to drive meaningful value creation there is very different than what it looks like in the U.S. and other, kind of broader developed and or emerging growth markets. So it was really where I honed my skill set in regards to, managing leadership in an environment where you don't necessarily speak the language. You got to really understand and lean on, the surgeons and the partners that you work with, and spending a lot of time with them in those foreign markets was fantastic. And really, it was a foundational aspect for me running a global business the last couple of times in senior executive roles.
How much fun? I mean, it must have been a great deal of fun traveling the world, living in different cities like that, especially with a young family. So I can see the personal benefit. Curious on a professional side of things, would you recommend someone you were mentoring to do that because you get such great exposure, or is it not necessarily good for everybody, but it was good for you?
Tom, I have a very specific perspective on, kind of international growth experiences. And I would tell you, and this was shared to me by one of my mentors, almost 15 years ago, for every year that you spend outside of your home working environment, so the country that you grew up in, the language you speak, is like 3 years of accelerated development. And so when you think about the opportunity to live and work abroad, both on a personal and professional level, it really hones your ability to communicate. You got to be clear, you have to be concise and consistent with your message, because your message is being translated into multiple languages. When I was in Japan, I worked through an interpreter. I spoke enough Japanese to get by, could understand in business conversations. But, at the end of the day, I was at the mercy of my message and making sure that you could influence the direction of travel in the business. So you had to be really, what I call it, to be bright, be brief, and be gone, and making sure that you're consistent in clarity of that message, each and every time you get up and have a conversation, or you're imparting expectations on a team.
And as a manager and a leader, do you find yourself drawing on, on the experiences from these other cultures? Because you get to see how other folks do it. You get to see how other healthcare systems run. And I just have to believe it informs many of your decisions you make, because you can see things maybe from a different perspective.
Yeah, Tom, it gives you your aperture changes per se in regards to how you see the world. And it's really interesting here at Medtronic and what we're doing. We have, probably one of the most robust pipelines of products and innovation. And, one of the other really, kind of unique skills that Medtronic has is through our diversity of perspective and the power of our people, and making sure that we understand, our ability to grow faster is through the leaders that we bring into the company and the folks that we groom in the company. We operate in 120 countries around the world, and I kind of call it that we're all the same kind of different. That means we want to create access to healthcare. We want to eliminate healthcare inequity. What a great place to have an opportunity to do that, like Medtronic. And so I do draw on those experiences almost daily, Tom, in regards to, how we show up as an enterprise, how we show up as a leadership team, how we show up as individual contributors in this enterprise. And for me, it's a must do in regards to thinking about, the future of healthcare, because the world is changing, case in point with COVID, and having the ability to have, these type of conversations is very doable now, where probably 5-6 years ago, you and I would have jumped on a plane, or I would have jumped on a plane, or you would have jumped on a plane, and we would, be doing a face-to-face interview versus doing something over Zoom. And now, many meetings are run, very efficiently around the world, but that doesn't take away the experience of being in the market for the market.
Absolutely. Great stuff. Well, let's talk about the business you're leading to. Just to finish off your career story, you went to NuVasive for a short time, and then when we spoke, you were leading orthopedics at Smith & Nephew before coming to Medtronic almost a year ago. What was it that appealed to you about the Medtronic opportunity? Now let's take a quick break from this interview to bring back our sponsor, Allied Motion Technologies. Once again, I'm speaking with Chairman and CEO Dick Warzala. Dick, tell me, how does Allied Motion work with the medical device industry?
Great question. What Allied does is we've created what we call a solution center. And within the solution center, we have our engineering team that's trained and understands the total product capabilities and solutions within the company. So once we understand what the challenge is, what we will do is we will begin modeling it. We will then look at what is the optimal solution for that particular problem. And then we will then define it. And instead of having to cut hardware, produce a product, ship it to a customer, and go through that multiple iterations of testing, we feel that our ability and our increased capabilities to do simulations and modeling allows us to get it right the first time. So if everything works the way it's supposed to work, we get a solid understanding of the challenge. We go through our solution center, we model it, and we come up with a solution, present it back to the customer. And if everyone agrees, it looks like that will do the job, we go ahead and produce the product and deliver.
So, Dick, I understand you've made an exciting acquisition in the surgical robotics space. What can you tell us?
One of the most recent acquisitions we've had is provided us with some technology that we've admired for many years. What it does is, the surgical robot is intended to mirror the human body in terms of smoothness of operation, so forth, and the feedback that the surgeon would like to feel through the robot. This product line provides us with a motor, which is the highest torque density in the market. It's also zero cogging, meaning very smooth operation, and it has low hysteresis drag. So it takes out any influences other than something like the surgeon would like to feel as if he was doing it directly and not through a robotic device. So with that, we feel that it gives us a real competitive advantage to provide the surgical robot companies exactly what they're looking for.
And final question, Dick, where else can we find Allied Motion Technologies in the medical device industry?
You'll see Allied in a wide range of applications, including in CPAPs, ventilators, respirators, cancer screening, and oncology treatment equipment, medical hand tools, dialysis equipment, nuclear imaging, patient handling, for example, chairs, exam tables, beds, transport, rehab, and advanced prosthetics is another area where we excel at. Powered wheelchairs and mobility scooters, stair lifts, and last but not least, we talked about Allied as a leader in motion solutions in surgical robots.
Well, that is great. Thank you to Allied Motion Technologies for sponsoring this episode of the Medtronic Talks podcast. Thank you, Dick Warzala, for joining us on this episode. If you'd like to find out more information about Allied Motion Technologies, go to its website, alliedmotion.com. That's ALLIED motion.com. What was it that appealed to you about the Medtronic opportunity?
I'd always from afar had seen Medtronic as having this enviable position of opportunity. They were typically the market leader in every subsegment that they participated in. And, when you get a call from Jeff Martha and, no other reason you want to pick up the phone and have a cup of coffee, have a conversation and, get a little bit smarter from that dialogue. And that's exactly what happened. I had a couple of dialogues with Jeff and we talked about the future and the idea around enabling technology and the impact it's going to have on healthcare over the next 25 years. And, we really had some meaningful conversations around not only where Medtronic is today, but the kind of leadership construct and the ideas of where they want to take the business under Jeff's leadership. And it was very appealing to have an opportunity to come work at, not only the largest, but one of the most innovative medical technology companies in the world. And so I was very excited about the opportunity and, given the opportunity to lead our CST business, which is the second largest operating unit at Medtronic, it's $5 billion plus in sales. And, we operate in 120 countries around the world and have thousands and thousands of associates that work under our purview. So it's an exciting entree into Medtronic, that's for sure.
Well, let's talk about the business that you oversee, the cranial spine business. What are the products? Parts of the body are clear in the name, but what are some of the products in your portfolio?
Yeah, we've if the spine business, we've got Prestige, we've got O-arm from an imaging perspective, we've got Stealth S8, we've got Mazor, our robotic solution, Synergy on the T-Lift side, Solera. We can go down the list of products, but Tom, this isn't so much about the plastics and metals that we participate in. It's really about the ability to reinvent the standard of care in healthcare, and that was what was really exciting about coming to the CST business, was really seeing the opportunity with this enterprise. We operate in such a position of strength. It was really exciting to think about, if we could bring all of this together in a meaningful way, what is it really going to do for the standard of care in healthcare? And I think that's, for me, the most exciting opportunity, because it's not just about the business of spine that we're in and the business of restoring health, but, you think about the Medtronic mission, and we wake up every single day, focused on, alleviating pain, restoring health, and extending life. It's a pretty exciting opportunity when you think about that, and you get to translate that into this amazing product portfolio. It's exciting.
What would you say are the two or three, let's say three biggest pillars that the strength is resting upon in the business?
Yeah, there's some really core aspects of what we do. You think about, kind of our infused biologics platform, morphogenic bone growth protein. You think about our imaging platforms with Stealth. It's the standard of care and overall navigation and our imaging capabilities. And then you start thinking about the implants. It's an unbelievable plethora of products. We cover every major area in the spine. You think about, neurological disorders, spinal and cranial tumors, spinal trauma, deformity, scoliosis, degen, herniated disc, spondylolisthesis, spinal stenosis. You can go down the list of all these different areas and disease states that we participate in. We've got 150 plus major product categories and products with major market leading share positions in each one of these major categories. We operate in a 1 or 2 environment and everything that we do. And it's a pretty exciting opportunity to really, again, focus on transformational quality of care that we can drive in healthcare, particularly in our spinal business today.
As I said earlier, you previously were at Novasive, then you led orthopedics at Smith & Nephew. Now you're back with the spinal cranial group at Medtronic. How do you compare orthopedics with spine as industries? Are they similar? Are they less alike than people think? Because they're often seen as one, but they're really very different businesses, I think.
Yeah, Tom, you're spot on. I think the working model is somewhat similar. You have an implantable device, you've got working capital, you got instrumentation, but the mentality and mindset of spine surgeons versus, kind of hip or knee surgeons is very different. There's the artistry and the tapestry of what we do in spine. And, I think ultimately, the focus really is around stabilization of that spinal column and, getting folks to recover faster. And there's still a lot of unmet needs in this industry. And that's the focus of what we do each and every day, showing up with, something major to talk about. The differences in kind of, let's just use knees as the example. It's a very well-defined procedural pathway. The key stakeholders are well-defined. You get into spine, you can, kind of talk to 10 different spine surgeries and you'll get 10 different perspectives on both the patient identification and the predictive planning and analysis of what that case should look like and could look like. And so really, we're in the business of standardization and eliminating, the variability in spine surgery. And there's really a number of different ways we're doing that. You might have heard of our ABLE ecosystem. And so that's a pretty exciting, launch that we just are starting to roll out across the world. And, it's about empowering the patient. We're giving the surgeon more data and cohesively bringing this together and making sure that there's an understanding of the value creation opportunity, but more importantly, delivering better surgery and better outcomes, right? More predictable outcomes, which is ultimately the keys to the kingdom.
Let's drill down a bit on ABLE. What is that offering to surgeons and to patients, and how does data fit into it all?
Yeah, Tom, ABLE is really AI-enabled empowering technology, right? There's this convergence of connectivity in regards to whether it be a robot, whether it be an implant and the data infrastructure, right? So right now we have cloud data infrastructure. We've got really accelerated profile of product development. So all this is informing, the way we bring products to market. But, there is this convergence that's going on and the enabling, empowering technology of implants connected with navigation, with imaging, with robotics. And, we're doing a lot in this product category and really allowing us to differentiate ourselves fairly strategically, because there's really the only company in the world that can really offer all of these products is Medtronic and the Cranial Spinal Technologies business. And you start thinking practical applications of a patient that is interested in spine surgery. They can download an app and get a bidirectional interface with a surgeon in their area and get a good understanding of, patient reported outcomes and, kind of how they're feeling. They're monitoring their pain. And then we're enabling the surgeon to have that discussion and really through administration of a couple of these vehicles, you get a better understanding of whether or not that patient is a surgical candidate or one that's a wait and see and manage, both improved pain or mobility. And, you need unique focus on, psychological parameters, so on and so forth. But, when we actually have that discussion with the patient and the surgeon, there's a preoperative component to it. There's an intraoperative component to it and a postoperative component to it. So, think patient education, think prehab versus rehab. And there's, patient reported assessment. We've got, components to wearables here. So this is a really unique value proposition and really where we're empowering the patient as well as enriching the surgeon's insights on that patient and, which will inform the surgical plan, at the right patient, the right surgeon at the right time. So there's a lot to this and there's multi-levels, we call it kind of concentric rings when we start thinking about the power of ABLE and what we're going to be delivering to marketplace.
So when do the patients begin touching the outer ring? Is it when they're first feeling a bit of back pain or when they first are trying to engage a surgeon, or are they already have they already seen a surgeon or a physician when they're hitting those outer rings?
It's a combination of both, Tom.
Okay.
The patients typically know that they've got some form of, back pain, and then the understanding it's a multi-stakeholder model. So some of this is driven through surgeon engagement, direct to consumer, but patient identification and patient engagement is largely delivered through that application and making sure that we understand hey, exactly what's your starting point. Again, making sure that they understand their pain points and what are the problems they're trying to solve. And, whether it's getting back to work, whether it's picking up their grandkids, or whether it's running marathons or doing the like.
I think there's just so much mystery and fear when it comes to back injuries and back pain and spine surgery that something like this I would hope, work to dispel some of that.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, we've got just, some great folks working in this organization. You think about, we're in the business of, restoring health and alleviating pain. Those first two tenets of our mission are spot on to what we do each and every day. And again, it's less about the plastics and metal. It's really about, understanding the experiential aspect of having surgery can really weigh on someone. And we want to make sure that we give them a good level-headed perspective on what to expect, both, pre-surgery, during surgery, and post-operatively on, whether it's a self-diagnosis or preventive care. And you combine that with robotic or minimally invasive spinal procedure, the output of that approach is world-class. And I think that's what you're starting to see in the marketplace today as we kind of continue to, separate ourselves from the competition. And it's pretty exciting. Our current trajectory, we have, an enviable, kind of portfolio of technology, both smart and connected devices that, are going to enable greater efficiency, drive improved outcomes, and really create a more connected environment. And it creates a little bit of a seamless experience both from the patient's perspective, but more importantly, the healthcare teams inside and outside the OR. So it's something we're spending a lot of time and money on, and investment on the innovation lifecycle of ABLE. Again, that AI empowered enabling technology.
I know you mentioned Mazor. I want to get into Mazor in a few minutes, but the other approval you had this year is it the Unity spine analyzer planning platform?
Yeah, it's a UNID custom spinal implant rod. So we can come in and you do a CT and or an MRI, and we bring that information back, and we sit with the surgeons, and we do a preoperative plan, and you get a customized rod that's absolutely based upon your physical presence and understanding kind of what that looks like and feels like, and making sure the surgeon can talk you and walk you through the level of correction you're needing in that procedure. It's really something that we're very proud of, and we've got over 12,500 patient records running through that already today. And so we see that as a great opportunity to converge, robotics and the active tracking of the output of those software platforms on a go-forward basis.
And I think Brett Wall talked about this at our DeviceTalks West conference. Are these the rods that gold standard had been the surgeons basically, are these bent by hand to sort of initially, and this is an improvement upon that?
Yeah, this is a massive improvement upon that. Depending on your level of correction, you think about anybody, building a house. It's kind of the adage. How I explain it is really, it's like sitting down with a design and development engineer when you're going to go do a remodel on a house versus a new build, and knowing what you get into on a new build is pretty straightforward, right? You can scrape the land, pour the foundation, lay the roof, and put the walls and everything up. As you get into a remodel, it's like peeling back those layers of unknown, and that's exactly what spinal surgery has been over the last number of decades. But when you really get to the point where you can empower the surgeon with the data-enabled technology, and they can do a preoperative plan, and they interoperatively can test that plan, and post-operatively, it really drives a more cohesive output. And ultimately, at the end of the day here, this is really around, driving that connectivity, making sure we can secure the outcome there, and then converging the data enablement with the implants. And that's really where we're going to be taking this over the number of years here.
Let's take this opportunity to talk about Mazor. We talked about we compared and contrast orthopedics and spine earlier. I'm curious, where does Mazor fit into your spine portfolio? Is it at the center of the wheel with all the spokes kind of leading to it and all the data collected in robotic spinal surgery going outward, or is it something more that's off to the side but will be brought in for only certain spinal surgeries?
Yeah, Tom, Mazor is really one of the cornerstones of our technology solution. And you start thinking about ABLE, right? AI-enabled empowering technology. Our whole focus around the implementation of spinal robotics is around creating a great surgical plan with the surgeon that's really very specific to that particular patient, and making sure that we import that into the operating environment. And Mazor is actually there to help execute on that. The enabling technology, when you start thinking about, the world of connectivity on a go-forward basis, where we can augment the surgeon's ability and capacity and power, that solution to be delivered. You start thinking about tissue characterization, segmental tracking, bone cutting, bone removal, all these type of things, in the world of soft tissue robots, right? With our Hugo solution, we see that, being implemented in the spinal area of our business and really enabling that surgeon to operate on the patient with the great patient selection plan, where you have an image-based analysis and really you get, great longitudinal analysis, interoperable feedback. So there's a lot going on in the world of robotics, but it's not just robots. It's really around, again, how are we empowering that surgeon into augmenting their ability to deliver a plan more seamlessly executed in the OR.
And how are you approaching, just sticking on Mazor for a moment? This is an area in spine where some competition is coming along with spinal robotics or surgical robotics in spine. You're, interestingly enough, almost in a space where, like another robotics player, where you've got the lead right now. How do you work to hold the lead? Do you work to hold the lead? How do you view these competitors coming in? As someone you need to keep an eye on, or do you more just stick to what you're doing and continue to do what got you to where you are?
Yeah, Tom, we're always keeping an eye on our competition for sure. But what it does is validate the approach and the thesis of, the impact of robotics in total healthcare, right? And what we're doing is actually creating, again, those concentric rings, start thinking about, the benefits of all key stakeholders and reinforcing our ability to close the loop on that total technology system. And that's where we are really differentiated, again, going back to that kind of concentric ring and able around our ecosystem there. There's really no one else in the marketplace that can deliver the data and analytics and create the procedural standards, with what we're doing in, predictive planning and making sure you're using the right implant at the right time and the right level of correction, and then really managing the outcomes and the tracking of those postoperatively. So both thinking about the patient, the surgeon, the hospital, the payer, and the various partnerships that we are participating with. This is what really separates us versus our competition. And we welcome the opportunity to compete each and every day, but really at the end of the day, we're competing with ourselves around how much better we can make our ecosystem. And really the focus is around, product and procedural efficiencies. And that's really the intent of what we're putting together. And ultimately, that'll have a fairly sizable clinical impact and a financial impact as we create a fully converged environment where all of these topics are coming together.
Looking at the spine industry itself, where spinal surgeries are being done, how is that changing? Are you seeing a rise in ASCs like in other specialties? And if so, how is Medtronic addressing or pursuing those customers or serving those customers if they're already your customers?
Yeah, Tom, we definitely are seeing a transition to ASCs, not as fast as you were seeing in maybe, kind of knee procedures and even in sports medicine. Some of the more complex spinal procedures will always be done inside of the healthcare hospital environment, but we are definitely seeing a shift to the HOPD and then for sure in the ASC setting. We predict that there's going to be 30 to 35% of total spine procedures done in that outpatient ASC setting. Think about ACDFs, two-level fusions, things like that on a go-forward basis. But again, I think we're well positioned in walking through that evolution together, whether it be, a segment of the business that's focused on empowering through technology, or is it really just a simple in and out procedure, day-based procedure? And we see that as really unlocking the patient. And, there's always going to be this push and pull in regards to the environment from a financial perspective on where actually surgery is being provided and whether or not it can be delivered in a safe and ethical, efficient manner.
Interesting. Let's just take a moment to talk about the cranial part of the business. What exactly constitutes that? What offerings do you have up there, and how do you see that changing?
Yeah, Tom, great question. So we have a cranial navigation-based business, skull tumor removal. It's really a nice business for us. We see a large level of utility there. There's some areas that we're gonna double down on. I love the brain aspect of what we do, both from a neurological perspective, but neurotumors, and we have a great product portfolio in our CSF business and with hydrocephalus, and we're pretty excited about the direction of travel with that group, and there's some great innovation coming out over the next 12, 18, 24 months there that really will again create additional separation from us and our competition, and that gets pretty exciting there. We love the opportunity. Again, we're a neurosurgical company, and anything related to head, neck, cranial tumors. We're gonna spend time unpacking and understanding if we have the ability to be the market leader in any one of those particular areas of clinical specialty.
Interesting. Going back to the spine, any other products we want to talk about? I know you had Ligapass, the ligament augmentation system, approved this year. Any other new approvals or products that we should hit upon?
Tom, we are really excited. I won't get into the specifics of kind of what's coming, but I can tell you that, the innovation life cycle at our spine and biologics business is as healthy as it's ever been. And we're projecting a record-breaking number of new implant technologies coming out over the next, 2 calendar years. We've had record-breaking, impact here in the most recent couple of quarters. And evidence of that is really, our U.S.-based core spine business was up 15% year over year.
Wow.
Last quarter. And I would venture to say that was highest in industry. And really, it's rarefied air, especially a company of our size delivering that kind of, mid double-digit growth. That's pretty exciting. And we have high expectations for our innovation pipelines on a go-forward basis, both on the spinal and cranial side of the business, as well as our enabling and empowering technology business.
That's terrific. Final question, and that kind of leads into this final question. Where do you see the spinal business and spine surgery 5 or more years from now, with the influx of data and imaging and all that's going on? Spine just seems to be an area that this is all so necessary because, as I said earlier, there's just people get back pain and it changes every moment of their day. And there's a certain, as you sort of mentioned, that you can talk to different surgeons and get different opinions as to what needs to be done. It seems like the veil really needs to be lifted off of spine surgery. So how does this change? How does this industry and how do the technical offerings change in the next 5 years or so? Is this a sort of a transformative period for spine?
Tom, I would tell you this is absolutely a transformative period for spine. You're seeing the digitization of everything, right? Across, even in handheld devices, you and your wife maybe, have a conversation about a trip to Fiji, and then you look down at your phone and then you've got, 4 or 5 different travel companies that specialize in trips to Fiji. So AI is alive and well. And our focus is really around agile product development, and that really leverages the digitization of that process and the approach and the ways we can accelerate new product design life cycles. We are really focused on innovating in high growth core markets. We obviously have talked a little bit about the ABLE and the digital ecosystem, but we're creating connected products and solutions that really differentiate both today, tomorrow, and into the future. And really the power of data and technology and machine learning and deep machine learning and AR and VR is something that we're going to really see kind of infiltrate our industry. And we are at the forefront of that. We're spending hundreds of millions of dollars in regards to creating the digital surgical ecosystem of the future and creating those digital strategies to really unlock growth. And more importantly, deliver better surgical outcome, more predictable surgical outcome. Again, the evolution of transforming from plastics and metals into a digital health platform is kind of where we see the business on a go-forward basis. And, there's just a great opportunity to, seize the momentum, and software as a service is another thing that comes to mind, and really creating a personalized customer engagement platform and real-time customer feedback, patient engagement, surgeon engagement. So there's just a lot going on. And we are seeing this evolution of healthcare, particularly in where we serve the marketplace. And there's definitely a transformation that's going on in the industry as well as here at CST and inside of Medtronic.
Fantastic. Well, great stuff. Well, Skip, happy anniversary to you. You're celebrating 1 year at Medtronic. Thanks for sharing your story and cranial spine story, and for joining us on the podcast.
Tom, great to be with you, and look forward to connecting with you in the new year.
Sounds terrific. All right, Chris Newmarker, that is a wrap. We had to kind of go a little faster, I think, than we normally do. But as we said, we're busy.
That's
and
right.
look forward to seeing you next week.
Yeah, it's going to be great to see you in
Cleveland.
person. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, that's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
So where can folks find you out there in virtual LinkedIn land?
The best thing, you can find me on LinkedIn, Chris Newmarker, just like a Newmarker, and always happy to connect, always happy to, chat medical devices. So, find me on LinkedIn. It's a great way to follow all the news we're covering on MassDevice too, because I'm posting away on there.
Absolutely. Lots of great stuff on there. I'm lots of great content from you on there. I'm on LinkedIn as well, Tom Salemi. And please do share this podcast episode. And when you do connect with Chris and I,
you got to like,
so we can be
follow, subscribe.
I don't think I got there yet.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Sorry.
telling them to share right now. We're talking about sharing.
Sharing.
Sharing is caring.
Yes,
Share this podcast episode and connect with Chris and I,
Yes.
and with Chris and me rather, and we'd love to be part of that talk. And yes, Chris Newmarker, what do we want people to do?
Get a like, follow, subscribe.
Absolutely. Subscribe to the Device Talks Podcast Network. You'll get future episodes of the Device Talks weekly podcast, of Stryker Talks, Intuitive Talks, and other great podcasts coming soon your way. And the only way to make sure you don't miss an episode is to subscribe. And also, please subscribe to Medtronic Talks on any major podcast application so you don't miss any future episodes of that fine podcast. So, with that said, that is a wrap. As I mentioned earlier on, we won't have a Device Talks weekly episode next week, but we've got a very meaty Stryker Talks coming your way. Great conversation with one of the leaders at Stryker, and I don't want to spoil the surprise, but I had a really good time talking with her or him. So that's it, Chris Newmarker. Yeah. I will see you in Cleveland.
See you next week in Cleveland, and hey, take care, everybody.